Hey friends, I know we're running a little late. We said we were going to be on at 7, but it is 7:13. So, we kind of running on a little CP time, but we're so excited about the special guest that we have here. We have the Tiffany Mason Wilkerson. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about herself in just a moment. But what I can tell you is that Tiffany is a phenomenal individual. She's a phenomenal educator, mother, wife, daughter, everything, you name it. Tiffany is all of that, and it's just a privilege to have Tiffany be part of our family, because if you know anything about us, once you with us, you family, we claim you, we keep you. And so we're just excited to have someone who is so special, so motivational, as a resource here with us. And we wanted to talk about, on Wednesday, we talked about breast cancer, because as you know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But not only is it Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And there are so many different types of domestic violence. Sometimes you could be being violated, but you don't even realize that that's the situation that you're in. And like we said, we're serious about everybody's mental health, physical health, just you overall emotionally, because we take on so many roles and wear so many different hats, particularly as women, that we don't always realize the situation is what it is. I know there's been this trend going on social media where people are identifying these red flags, and they have all these red flags there. Don't get in the habit of collecting red flags. One red flag is all you need. You don't need all those flags. Sometimes I see a post, people have, 15, 20 red flags. A red flag is a red flag. And all domestic violence doesn't mean that someone is just beating you down and beating you all the time. You can be beaten down without someone ever even laying a finger on you, because the blows, emotional blows, are just as hurtful, just as damaging as physical blows. So give yourself credit for knowing where you are. And if you're in a situation now where you're not really sure if you're being violated or abused in some manner, chances are you probably are. Because if it's something you have to think about, then it's something that's not right in the situation. And again, that is a red flag. Pay attention to the red flags. And domestic violence is not always just, a man beating a woman. It could be a woman beating another woman, or it could be, a lot of different cases. When we hear domestic violence, I always think about, I don't know, probably dating myself a little bit, but some of y'all remember that show, The Burning Bed, that had Farrah Fawcett in it? I always think about The Burning Bed, because that's what I understood and knew about, domestic violence. Thankfully, it's not something I personally endured, but I do know people who have experienced it. And you would be surprised at who is in an emotionally abusive situation. You can have professional women, people who are educated, you think would never be in that situation, but they are. And then before they realize it, so much has happened. But we just want you to understand that October is important. It's important to make sure you get your mammogram, you take care of your breast health, but it's also important to make sure that you self-evaluate, you self-reflect, you check your situations and make sure that you are not in a domestic situation that could lead to violence or may already be mentally violent. But I'm going to go ahead and let Tiffany talk now about herself and her foundation.
Awesome. Thank you, Sonia. All right. Good evening, everyone. As Sonia stated, I'm Tiffany Wilkerson, and I am Executive Director, Co-Founder for Illustrious Angels Youth and Family Services. So I'm super excited to be here this evening and join in on the conversation of the topic of domestic violence awareness. It's definitely a situation, I guess, that is near and dear to my heart. So I'll just talk a little bit about how Illustrious Angels became about. In honor of a dear friend of mine, Dr. Katina L. Murphy, who lost her life due to domestic violence. Illustrious Angels was birthed. Right now, we're about 8 years in, and so to God be the glory for the support from the community, support of grant funding, just all our family support for our co-founders, board members, advisory board. We have really been blessed to be able to be in the community and provide services for the last 8 years. I just want to share with you a little bit about what we do in the community and the type of resource that we are. And so Sonia talked about, women and adults, men, being in situations that are, mentally, emotionally abusive, right? And so most times we're talking about those intimate partner relationships. And most often, there's always a child that's involved. Are they being physically hit? Sometimes. But they're definitely being they definitely are emotionally affected by abuse that they are seeing. And what happens? The cycle repeats, right? The cycle repeats, and so they get into their own relationships, and all they know is what they saw mom go through. All they know is what they saw dad do to mom, or vice versa. And those are the behaviors, those are learned behaviors that they then repeat in their own relationships. It could be intimate relationships. It could be just friendships where they are trying to really figure out, how do I really treat a person? And so what we do with the Illustrious Angels is we have decided that our target audience, our focus, we're going to nurture our youth. We're going to make sure that they have a good social, emotional, healthy environment where they can come and pick up on coping skills, where they can come and talk to us about things that are going on in their lives and get advice, where they can come and pick up on what is it to have good character, what does a healthy relationship really look like, and how do I model that even though I'm considered a child or a teen or a young adult. And so the mission of Illustrious Angels is to make sure that we equip our youth with the skills that they need to lead productive lives, even though they may be affected by domestic and family violence. We provide free counseling, right? And I was talking to Sonia off camera about this, and we talked about how so often families are embarrassed to seek services. We want you to know that there's no reason to be embarrassed. The counseling services can only help, right? Also, what I like to say is, for Illustrious Angels, we don't have an income restriction. I believe in our community, there's so much that's out there, and then there's so much tied to income. And Sonia already stated, she in the beginning, domestic violence doesn't have a face. It doesn't have an economic status. It can be very professional women, very professional men, people that make $20,000 a year, or people that make $150,000 a year, right? But services are needed. You never know a person's financial status. Just because a person makes $100,000 a year doesn't mean they can afford counseling $120 per hour. That's literally what counseling rates are. And so we do have all these government programs, and we do have all these grant-funded programs, and some of them are tied to an income restriction. And people can't get the help that they need because, you're middle class, so you make too much to get this service. And a lot of times our middle class are the people that really need the help and really need the support. So I am proud to say that through Illustrious Angels, we do not have an income restriction on who we help. Our goal is to help kids, help youth, help young adults, and get them through some of these adverse childhood experiences that they're going through, and just really provide coping skills so that they know how to make healthy choices when it comes to relationships.
Well, I mean, that's awesome because, like she said, most of the time there are children involved. And I've heard before that adults spend a lifetime trying to recover from their childhood. So if we can provide resources and make things easier for them in childhood and give them those coping skills, maybe they can live more fruitful, more beneficial lives, be of more service to the community instead of just trying to recover from their childhood. I think everybody has something that took place in their childhood, but you would sometimes be horrified to hear about the domestic violence situations that people have actually grown up in and that they come to believe are normal. And a lot of times it doesn't have to, like I said, it does not have to be a physically abusive situation. It's a mentally abusive situation. And so even with other people that grow up, they don't really know how to talk to people because they're so used to that cycle. What do you think, Mom?
Well, I think a lot of times in domestic violence situations, the victims are blamed unfairly because they're saying, why did you stay in that relationship? And really, Tiffany hit it on the head. A lot of times they can't really, number one, they could be embarrassed. Number two, they may not be able to afford to get out of that situation. And number three, that may be all they know. If that's what they grew up in, that's what they expect. Mm-hmm. And so they stay in it. So the blame, there is no blame. What we're here for now is help, not blame. And then another thing about we don't really identify domestic violence with anything except hitting and scolding and fussing and cussing and all those other things. But it could be financial as well. If you're not in a supportive position to be able to support yourself, that violence could be that's one thing that's held over your head. That's where the emotional part comes in. That's where the mental health part comes in. Is that if you're being held hostage because you cannot afford certain things, so you have to stay there and take all of the abuse that's handed down in that household. One thing I was looking at too is that a fifth of the women that get protective orders are dead within the first 2 days. That's when you're in a definitely violent situation. Somebody is watching you, somebody is monitoring you, and somebody is counting your steps. So you got to keep your head about you and all of that. And then a third are murdered within the first month. People that apply for help. We're talking about help from the police force. We're not talking about we may be going through Tiffany services, but sometimes they feel they need more help from maybe an armed force. And when those people get those protective orders don't always help them. They are dead within 2 days. A third of them are dead within a month. So it's a real situation. And if someone comes to you or if you observe someone going through some things, try to provide them with some help. And that help is not necessarily talking to them saying, get out, get out. They don't know how to get out. You got to provide information. You got to provide hotlines where they can call and talk to people. And then you got to provide sometimes even shelter because they can be unsafe in their own home. You know, if this is somebody that they know. It's not someone that doesn't know where you are. They know how to get in your house. They know all the points of your house, your doors, your windows, etc. So it's a big situation. So if you know someone that's in a situation like this, please just try to provide all the help you can. Help them to find the help because it's a real situation.
And we, like I said, we've been seeing pink, pink, pink. As a matter of fact, yesterday I walked in the Susan G. Komen breast cancer walk. It is a walk that I have done really 20 years or better. Mackenzie was in a stroller the first time we did that walk. And, you know, obviously now she's capable of walking in it herself. And she still does from time to time. But we also need to know that purple is an important color too. Purple is the color that celebrates domestic violence, which is in the same month. And a lot of times, like we said, you don't know if it's domestic violence, but I want to give you a term called microaggression. Sometimes, and it doesn't even always have to be a male, female, or female, female, male, male, whatever the situation. People will commit microaggressions against you with just little slick things they say. It's not anything that's blatantly, disrespectful, but it's something that it's what they call a backwards compliment. It's just them being slick, and then that kind of stuff over time builds up in your psyche, and that's a form of abuse as well. There are so many different microaggressions that we have just learned to just tolerate, and we think that it's okay, but it's not okay. And we just need to understand that when you learn how to treat yourself better, we'll learn how to treat other people better. And the whole point of all of this is to improve all of our mental, physical, emotional health, because we have been suffering, all of us, at one point or another with something emotional, something mental, that you can't even really do what you're supposed to do because it's always on your mind. Right. Our shirt says, stop the violence in the silence. And so when we say in the silence, I mean silence about all of it. Silence about the microaggressions, silence about people making you feel uncomfortable, in your own space. You shouldn't have to live like that. And you should develop the coping tools to recognize when it's happening, and then also what to do about it. Like my mom was saying, sometimes you can't say, well, why you ain't leave him? He did this, he did that. Well, A, she may not know how to leave him. And B, she may not really know that she needs to leave at this point. There are a lot of times people just don't know until it is too late. And that's why I want.
And people get accustomed to the lifestyle.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's also something else. Some, and I'm gonna say women because I have most experience with women, but women get accustomed to lifestyles. And so when you come from a household that has maybe two incomes, or the husband or partner is making a really good amount of money and providing, and you drive a nice car, you have all these nice things, people get accustomed to things, right? And so we can't allow material things to be such high on of a standard, or we can't place that type of value on material things that we devalue ourselves. Right? You have to value yourself more than you value stuff. And when you think that way, then you won't stay in a situation because of things, because of a lifestyle. Sometimes we do have women that are in those abusive relationships, abusive marriages, because of what they value. You really have to evaluate what's most important. Is it you, your peace, your joy, your health? Or is it the car? Is it the house? Is it the clothes? Is it, what do you value most?
I like what Tiffany just said, peace, joy, and health, because those are the driving forces really in your life, whether you realize it or not. You can't put any kind of value on peace, nor joy, nor your health. So those are really driving forces that you should look at before you decide that you want to stay in an abusive situation.
Well, Tiffany, tell them how that they can get in touch with you and your organization.
Okay, so we are really present on Facebook. So if you hop over after you watch this video and type in Illustrious Angels, it's going to pop up. There's nobody else out there with a name like us, okay? We're very unique, very special. We have a very unique purpose that God placed us here for. So if you type Illustrious Angels, you're going to get to us. We're also on Instagram, but also you can email us at info at illustriousangels.org and reach out to us, inquire about any of our services. You need referral forms because you're interested or you would like to share information with someone to be referred for our free counseling services or for our free support groups for teens and young adults and children. Hey, reach out. We'll share that information with you. Also, our office phone is 972-685-5521. So you can always give us a call. We're located in the Duncanville area, so we are local. We serve the DFW Metroplex. Okay, our office though is in Duncanville. However, we serve the DFW area, so don't feel like, well, we live too far, so they probably can't help us. Call us, because even though you may have a need that we may not be able to fill, we're not going to say, oh, well, I'm sorry, we can't help you. We're going to use our resources, our connections that we have in the community to figure out how to help you and which way to lead you.
So again, if there is a topic you would like for us to discuss, something you would like some more information on, Tiffany's our first special guest, but she definitely will not be our last, and I'm sure we'll be having her come back again because, like I said, she's family. So it's really great to be able to provide information that can service the community. And I think she said it best when she said there's nothing that's more important than your joy, your peace, and your health. And we're just going to end it there. Think about how situations impact your joy, your peace, and your health. Everybody have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.